Hey, hi, everybody. My name is Rahima Abdelhamid, and I am going to be facilitating this webinar around conferring and distance learning. My moderator and also co-host will be Nikki Thornton, if you want to unmute and say hello.
Hey, everybody.
So she will, if you have questions and things, it'll come out, you can type them into the chat, and she will either let me know or answer them within the chat. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. In full transparency, this is the first time I've actually facilitated my own. So like we talk about like vulnerability and grace and compassion, and we're trying to get our teachers to do this. We're trying to get ourselves to do this. So please be kind with me as I'm doing this. It's new for me, but hopefully I don't mess it up too badly. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. Okay. I don't know where everything is. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, great. So again, we're going to be talking about conferring with readers and distance learning, and how might that look when we're not sitting side by side, when they don't have maybe they don't have the text at their levels. How might we finagle our way around that? Something just to get us started off and thinking and just like being here for now is a quote by Brene Brown, where she says, "Empathy has no script. There is no right way or wrong way to do it. It's simply listening, holding space, withholding judgment, emotionally connecting, and communicating that incredibly healing message of you're not alone." I think this is powerful on many different levels just in the work that we're trying to do now, but I think this is a really good framework for starting these conferences with our students, right? Thinking about like if we are having a hard time getting started, like just as a way of connecting with them, right? Just like having empathy with them, just hearing them, right? We don't have to go straight into the teaching. So I thought that was like a really beautiful way of thinking about conferring with students. So the webinar overview. Sorry, I have a quick question. Do you guys see just my slides, or do you see also everybody's faces? Nikki?
Say that one more time. Sorry, I was responding in chat.
Okay. Do you see just the slideshow, or do you see? We see the faces.
I see faces at the top in the slideshow.
Okay, got it. All right, I'm getting rid of the faces. Sorry. Thank you. So again, so for today, what we're going to be talking about is just the framing of what this PD is about, the purpose of conferring virtually, the digital learning platforms for conferring, ideas for initial conferences, preparing for conferences, and then some Zoom conference examples of some teachers who have already tried out this work. So our framing. So the reason we're doing this is not a webinar on how to confer. We're making an assumption that teachers, whoever's going to be doing this work, has their own system for conferring, knows how to confer. But we do want to provide information on ways to confer during distance learning, ideas for initial conferences, and tips for conferring, excuse me, conferring and distance learning. So right now we're just going to think about the purpose. Why should we confer during distance learning? And if you could just take a minute and type into the chat, what do you see as the purpose of conferring during distance learning? Why do you think we should do it? And then we'll give a minute or two, and then Nikki will share out some ideas. Okay, about 30 more seconds. Okay, Nikki, if you wouldn't mind sharing some ideas from chat.
Yeah, and I hope that people have had a chance to also take a minute to read over these. There's a lot of shout outs to really talking about the personal connection that reading conferences can offer during this time. We're not seeing students and connecting one on one, understanding who they are as learners and readers right now, and continuing to be a champion and support for them. Also, some process monitoring while students are away and they're getting work through many different platforms, and offering feedback and lots of relationship. Um, yeah, thanks
Great,
everyone.
thank you. Yes, and that is very much where, like, when we were thinking about this as an ELA team, is just really this initial part of it is connecting with students, right? We're learning about who students are as readers in this context. Like, we might have known who they were at school or during readers workshop time, but now they're at home or they're in a situation that is different for us. Just so we can have regular conversations with students. Eventually it will be about the books, but just getting them talking, getting them excited to like check in with you. Also help them to build a reading and writing life at home. This is a really great opportunity to bridge that time we had at school with what it might look like at home. So maybe they can make it a practice for themselves. And then ultimately it will be an opportunity to help students problem solve around reading, around comprehension, around some other things that might be going on with their literacy. So now we're going to just talk about the platforms for conferring. These are just a few that we thought of or that the district has opted to share with us. But if you have other ways of doing it, I'm going to give you guys a moment to type in chat or some other ways that you might have been connecting with students. But the three major ones that we're working with now are Zoom. And then if students don't have access to digital, then a phone call or FaceTime. And also, we also know that some students don't have access to a phone, and we know there's some inequity issues that are coming up with that. But just to get us started, these are some platforms. If later on, if you'd like to just know what are the considerations you should take on meeting with students virtually, you can click on this document and it'll give you a lot of information on like what to do and what not to do. Okay. So just take this moment. If anyone has any other ideas around other platforms or other things that they've been doing, please, I'll give a minute and just type into the chat so we could just gather some more ideas. Okay, Nikki, if you wouldn't mind highlighting some things.
Yeah, the one that's coming up is Google Meet. And so definitely Google Hangout. And I also put the guide for virtual meetings with students, that link that's in the slideshow. I also put that in the chat as well for people to access. But it does talk about Google Hangout.
Good. Yeah, and I know initially we were not using Google Hangouts because students could keep coming back into that platform, but if it's one-to-one, then it makes sense to be able to use Google Meet or Google Hangouts. So like people shared initially, like these initial conferences are a way of just reconnecting or connecting or continuing to connect with our students, right? So our initial conferences should come from an inquiry or support staff, a stance. We're not going straight into like, pull out your book, we're gonna work on this goal, blah, 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 right? We really want to think about what do our students need and how we're gonna be supportive and how do we get them to keep coming back and wanting to be part of these conferences or these check-ins with us, knowing that they have a million things on their plates as much as we do. So just some questions for initial conferences. You might just be calling just to check in. It might be around volume or stamina after you said your hellos and checked in, asking how much and for how long are you reading? What makes it easy or hard for you to read at home? And just listening for them. You don't have to give advice unless they want advice, but you're just listening. Just getting to them as readers. You have books, right? Like, are there physically books in your home? If there are, how are you finding books or choosing books? How are you finding a good reading spot? And is it easier reading at home or at school, and why? So getting them to also reflect on what's going to work for them and what doesn't work for them. And then if you want to go into some comprehension, you could think about talking to them about who they could be reading and discussing with books with at home. So you're not always going to have a chance to talk to them. So maybe it's talking to a parent or an older sibling or a stuffed animal, right? They can also pretend. And then you can be discussing the language or the strategy students are trying from the mini lessons. So a lot of us are using the digital units of study, and there's those independent practice templates. It might be coming back and say, let's take a look at what you did and let's talk about it and let me hear some of your thinking. Again, we're not going to jump into these comprehension kind of lessons until we've established just some personal connections with the students. I'm going to pause right there and just see if there's any questions or anything that are coming up or any other ideas for initial conferences that maybe you've tried or that you're thinking about trying.
One thing that's come up in the chat that I was in the process of emailing is one of my colleagues talked about making a funny video of finding a just right reading spot, and really hearing the parents saying that was really helpful. And so I'm in the process. In the chat, I'm basically going to say, like, if you feel comfortable sharing it with us, please email it to us so we can also see it as well. Thanks.
That was me. I tried to think beforehand about where kids could read kind of that's abnormal, but because they're at home, finding the right space. So one of the funny parts is I sat in the bathtub, which, sounds funny, but the reality is, like, sometimes kids don't have any private space except for in a place where there's nobody else, like the bathtub. So
I love that.
It's a YouTube video, so I'll put it in the link.
Thank you. That's amazing.
And also, another one of our colleagues talked about how TC is really suggesting like complement conferences, and that's another great way to connect with students and support.
Wonderful. It's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so just thinking about preparing for conferences, right? Like, what do we need to do? So we know when we're in our classrooms, we might have our little kit or a little baggie, but we're at home and the kids are at home. So we don't know exactly, what they have access to and what they need. So there are some ways to think about how to prepare for these conferences. So first, decide what you want the student to bring, right? So some ideas are a book that they're currently reading. Some of us are having our students read a book and then come back and talk to us about it. Some of us are projecting a book on like Raz Kids or Epic, and we're having those conversations, but just making sure that they know they are going to be discussing a book. Any kind of jots or reading responses, they could just bring them and talk through with the conferences with you, or they can take pictures and text them to you or post them onto Google Classroom. Any work from the mini lessons that they've been working on, and then just some kind of notebook or writing tool so they can, do a jot while they're meeting with you, or they can write their goal, or they can fill in their reading log if that's something that they're having an issue with. So just in preparing like that, that's a good first step. Then you want to decide what resources or tools will help support your conference. So just some ideas, like a book you want to use for instruction. So if you are projecting on the screen, having that there. a way to take notes about the conference. So, note taking is always a struggle during conferring, but this might be a nice way of practicing that, just so you can keep track of what you're conferring around. Any student work that was sent to you either via text or Google Classroom or Seesaw. If you're referencing the units, your anchor chart, your teaching points from the unit that could help ground you and ground the students in the work that you're doing during the mini lesson. And tools to support book levels or comprehension. So we put in a couple of examples, the matching books to readers, which talks about like what should the kids be doing at each level. So you might get some helpful tips and teaching points. And this is later on after you do your initial conferences. And there's also the comprehension continuum questions, which also has comprehension questions that are beyond, within, and about across the levels. It's also a helpful tool. So if you're the kind of teacher who's like, I don't even know where to start, this might be a way of just like helping you to start planning conferences. I'm going to pause here and just see what are some other things or other suggestions that you have, or questions or wonderings you're having around like getting prepared for conferences. I'll just give a minute or two, and then I'll have Nikki. She's monitoring all the chat, so Nikki will share out.
Are we allowed to just interject, or do you want us to type the question? Okay.
Yes,
one of the, I guess maybe it's a challenge I was hoping to see if anybody had tried and found a solution to. So like today I tried doing my first like guided reading group, and it went pretty well, but I realized that I had the kids all mute themselves while they were reading, and then I told them to unmute themselves, kind of like in a real live guided reading group where, I lean into when the kid is reading. Yeah. But then I realized that all the kids could hear everything I was saying, so I thought maybe it would be distracting. Mm-hmm. So I thought about potentially doing breakout rooms, but I know for the little kids, I teach first grade, I know for the little ones it's not really been suggested. So I don't know if anybody has any ideas around like how to make it not distracting, but also like get kids to keep reading, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to post out to the group. I haven't tried out small groups yet. So, and I know there's a lot of people here who have, or coaches who have been working with teachers who have. So if you have ideas, yes, you can unmute yourself and share, just because we are small enough. Or type in the chat if that's better for you.
Yes, no one has tried it yet.
I will also, like, if I will think about this and then like reach out to colleagues that I know have tried it and see what they've been doing. So I know people have started with small group instruction. So that's a wondering I have now that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm. One of the challenges I ran into is that I assigned the kids the book on Raz Kids and told them in Google Classroom, like, don't read this beforehand, because I wanted to do it as if we were reading it together and, do a book introduction beforehand. But right. I guess a couple kids, like, or one of my students at least, like, accidentally started reading it because she thought it was like the book that I had assigned for the class to read as opposed to the small group. So, I know moving forward, I have to try to be very explicit, because I wrote it down in my notes from what you said about like making sure to tell the kids beforehand, like, are you going to read this book beforehand or not read it? Because one kid, she accidentally read it beforehand in a different group, but that was fine because then I didn't actually have to like read it with her. We kind of more just went over, for that student at least, we went over like text features and stuff. But that being very explicit about what they should do beforehand is something I think moving forward I have to get better at being clear about, so that they're prepared to do the work I want them to do.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know there's a lot of things that end up coming up. Like we're like, oh, I figured this out, and then there's a new thing that comes up. So we will continue to problem solve, and if I hear of anything, I will make sure to post it out to the ELA universe.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. Nikki, anything else?
Nothing else in the chat.
Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to look at some conference examples, and we're going to look at two, and they're both in kindergarten. But there is a first grade one and a third grade one. The reason I wanted to do the two kindergarten is just one was using Zoom with Epic, which I think a lot of us are doing, and one was RAS Kids, using Zoom with RAS Kids. And I think they're both, even if you're an upper grade teacher, these will help you just thinking about what is the process for maybe getting a conference started. I know I mentioned that we're talking, if we're just starting out, we're doing these initial conferences where we're not having a kid read a book and coaching them, but we might show a book and be like, I'm going to read this out loud to you, and like have a conversation with them about it. So even though these lessons are a little bit more teachy, for later on, after you've built that rapport with your students, you can, think about these kinds of conferences. So what we're going to do is I'm going to play one video and then pause for like a second, play the second video, and then I'm going to put you in breakout groups. And during your breakout groups, you can have some conversations about like, what might you try? What is this making you think? What are some things you might have to problem solve? Any questions before I get that started? And this one's from a teacher or a literacy coach in our district.
Hey, hi, Felicity. Hi. I've heard you've been reading lots of books on your computer.
We were hearing the sound, but now the sound is gone.
Your screen, and you're going to read for me. Okay?
Can you hear it now?
Let's give it a try, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you.
It's not working.
Okay, ready? So this book is called I Will Try. And she's trying new things. Have you ever tried new things before?
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes when you try new things, you might not be able to do it the right way the first time. So you have to keep trying. So this is about a girl who is trying some new things. And do you want to take a guess? Look at, she's standing on this thing called a balance beam. Do you want to guess what she's going to try?
She's going to try and do a spin.
Maybe she'll try to do a spin. Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn the page and you're going to try to read with me, okay? Or read to me. Ready? Okay.
On the page.
I'll turn the page for you, okay?
I see your arrow.
Okay, ready?
Where's the word? I eat. I brush. No, then I brush. I pack my bag.
She's packing her bag with lots of different things. Okay.
Time to go sit down. Have fun, said Mom. I can't say the word. Oh, it is Jan. I like her. Jan can do a split. Jan can pose.
What do you think about Jan so far?
She's really good at ballet. I like gymnastics.
Yeah, what do you think this character is feeling?
Sad.
Why do you think that?
Because she's not as good.
Maybe. Let's keep reading.
Jan can jump. Jan can spin. Can I will try.
Good. Felicity, can I give you a compliment?
What?
You're doing such a good job as a reader of making your voice sound nice and smooth. And then when you saw this question mark, you did something with your voice. You said, "Can I?" So you made your voice go up and you really made it sound like she was asking a question, like, "Can I do it?" So I want you to keep doing that. That's so awesome. You keep reading using your punctuation. Shall we finish our book?
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
I will try. Oh no.
Good, you changed your voice with the exclamation point. Let's keep going.
Down I go. I give up. Down, don't give up, said Jan. Try again.
Mm-hmm. So I noticed you said Jan. Let's look at this word.
Says Jan.
Says, good. Says Jan. Said sounds right. Let's make sure it looks right too, okay? Good. Keep going.
Try again. I try again. I did it. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Jan.
Very nice. Felicity, that was awesome reading. I'm so happy that I got to hear your reading. You did such a good job changing your voice with the punctuation. Do you want to tell me, can you make a plan for your reading today? What kinds of books do you want to try reading today? Like this one was all about like gymnastics, about sports, and about trying. Can you think of a couple other books you might want to read today? Let's make a plan.
I want to leave meeting.
You what?
I want to leave a meeting.
Can you tell me one kind of book that you would like to read?
Unicorn.
Oh, unicorn books. Fantastic. All right, Felicity, happy reading. We'll talk again soon. Bye.
Leave meeting.
Sorry, let me get reset up. I love this video for so many different reasons, but Jamie, who's the one doing the conference, just being a really amazing sport, and I needed to have a video of how this might look, and that's her daughter that she's doing it with, and she asked her daughter to pretend to be a student, so you can kind of see in some of the daughter's mannerisms that they have a very different relationship than like student teacher, but I just thought it was really sweet. Okay, now I'm going to show you the next one, and then after that, we'll move into breakout groups. Nikki, are we still good?
We're still good.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure what everyone's can see or is doing. Okay. All right.
And be back and forth with each other. They're also trying to come back with comments. And I suppose you could even send recorded short strategies to them. Meetings to happen in real time might just really not be possible. All right, so with all that, I'm going to share with you a quick video. I have permission from this little girl's mom to share our conversation from this morning. And as I mentioned, she's a kindergartner, and I think for young kids, if you can show the text on screen, it can be helpful, so you can both be looking at the same thing. So I just used Raz Kids, which is free right now, so I used that. I signed up for a free account and shared a text with her that I thought she might enjoy. You're going to see probably the same kinds of moves you may have noticed from other examples of conferring you may have seen me do. I'm going to state the purpose early on of what we're going to be working on. I'm going to let her have a chance to try, and I'm going to give her some feedback connected to that strategy that we're working on. And at the end, I'm going to remind her to keep going. it's short, 6 minutes. I think that you could do 6, 10, somewhere around there, minutes with each student. And depending on how many kids you have, depends on how many times a week you might see them. Maybe sometimes you check in for writing, sometimes for reading, sometimes for math. Without further ado, I'll play it, and then we can, I'll take a look at the comments, and you can feel free to jot questions and comments as we go. Hi there.
Hi.
You ready to do some reading today?
Yep.
Okay, remember last time we were working together, we were working on smoothing out our sentences, right? Instead of reading word by word, we're going to try to scoop under the line.
Yeah.
And I know that you loved that book about animals that I found, so I found you another animal book. Wanna take a look?
Yay.
All right, let's see where it is. Let's see where it is.
I can't wait.
You can't wait. All right, this one is all about night animals. Does that look interesting? And I know you know some things about bats, don't you? Because you've got some bats at your house.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and read this book. Here's another beautiful animal. Look at that. Can you read what that caption says?
Leopard.
That's right.
Oh.
And this book has a table of contents. This is going to tell us about the sections in the book. Can you read the different sections we're going to read?
Can't read that one.
This one says introduction, which is like the beginning. What's the next one say?
In the air.
Yep.
In water.
Uh-huh.
On land.
Yep.
Index.
Index. Yeah, do you know what an index is?
No.
Index is a list of the keywords so you can go back and find the information. Okay, so here's our introduction. Go ahead and try to read that.
Some animals are active at night when this is dark. These animals sleep during the day while the sun shines.
You know what I heard? I heard that you were trying to sweep up about 2 words at a time, right? And you're trying to read those in groups. Can you go back and try that one more time now that we know all the words?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Some animals are active at night when it is dark. These animals sleep during the day while the sun shines.
It's always a little easier, isn't it, to go back and smooth out your reading after you know the words?
Mm-hmm.
That's something you could even practice on your own when you're reading, to go back and reread to try to smooth it out. That sounded very smooth to me. Let's try the next page. Whew, a lot of words on that page.
Woo!
I don't know if that caption,
animal looks weird.
I know, I have never seen the animal before. And I don't know if that caption.
I think it might be something that lives in Africa, I think.
It could
looks
be.
like the bat-eared fox. I don't know.
It does. The caption, it's a very small print. You might not be able to see it. It says fennec fox. But it does look like a bat-eared. Yeah, right?
Yeah, the bats have ears that big.
Must really need to hear things with ears that big.
Yeah. These animals have speckle eyes to help them see in dark.
So this word is special. Special.
Okay.
Okay.
These animals have special eyes to help them see in the dark. Most of them also hear and smell well. They're seasons.
It doesn't say season, but can we back up to this sentence? You said most of them also her. Can you look at that word again?
Here.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? And it matches the letters.
And smell well.
There we go.
There.
Look at the first part of the word. S-E-N.
Sen.
And then that second part?
Sees. Senses. Senses.
Senses, yeah, they're senses.
Help them find food at night.
Now that we know the words, let's go back and smooth it out. A couple words at a time, or a few words at a time to smooth it out.
These animals have special eyes to help them see in the dark. Most of them also hear and smell well. Their senses help them find food at night.
So I will share this book with you, and you can keep reading it. And you can remember that after you read and make sure you know all the words, you can go back and smooth it out, reading all right, everybody. So there was a
Sorry, guys, I lost my, give me 1 second. So again, those are 2 videos of just, you know, people trying it out, right? And I think that's the important thing about just like getting it started. After you have those initial conferences and you've built that rapport with your students, that's one way a conference could go. I know that I mentioned, you know, like, so for some students, you might be having them bring a book that they're working on at home because they have access to text, or you feel comfortable enough with the book or the comprehension that they will bring their own book. But if not, you could also, we have these resources like Epic and Raz Kids that we can be sharing with our students. So now I'm gonna go back to present. I'm gonna attempt to put us in breakout groups. So once you get into your breakout groups, just talk about, what did this make you think? What did you notice? What are some things that brought up for you? What might be a next step for you to try as you do this work? So Nikki, I might need a little bit of help to go to breakout group.
Okay.
Let me see. Thank you guys for being patient with me. So Nikki, where?
So down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see on your bar like chat, screen share, record. There's going to be a breakout box. So let's stop sharing your screen.
Oh, okay. So stop sharing. Stop share. Got it.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
Perfect. Yay.
All right.
You got this.
All right. All right, I'm gonna do that now. Let me know if it works.
It works.
Okay. Melissa and Christine. Just checking if you just didn't get a breakout group or if you just aren't joining a breakout group. If you're there.
Rahima.
Yeah.
For breakout room number 4, can you move that participant to another room?
Yes. How do I do that? Oh, it says move to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so move to breakout group. 1. Okay.
Yeah, just any of them. Thanks.
Did she move?
I'm gonna go check and see.
Okay.
I think next steps would be to maybe do some screen sharing and like I see a ton of benefit from sharing the screen and like being able to work on that decoding. And so that was nice to see how they used it in that way.
Yeah.
Do you think that would be feasible, like knowing the access that your families have?
No.
Everyone, welcome back. We're going to wait a couple, like 30 more seconds to make sure everybody gets in. If there were any highlights or any thoughts that kind of came out of your breakout groups, you can start typing them into the chat, and you know, we can maybe share them out with the whole group as we're all doing this new learning together. So as we're coming in, if anything came up for you in your breakout group, like a great idea, a question, a wondering, you can type it in the chat so we could share it out with the entire group. We're just gonna wait for a few more people. Actually, I think we're all back on. So yeah, so let me give you 1 minute just in the chat if anything, like, wow, like this was a really brilliant idea, or this has got me thinking, or here's a really solid next step, or here's something I'm curious about. Type it into the chat, and then Nikki, our fearless moderator, will help us make sense of some of those.
Hey, Julia, you were in the middle of finishing your sentence about the breakout room idea, which I thought might be useful. So can you finish what you were saying?
Yeah. So in one of the Teachers College webinars, they talked about doing a partnership conference. So you have like 2 kids that are in a room with you or just on your Zoom call. And then you're talking to both of them. And then you're going to read with one of them. And the other person can keep reading and mute themselves, or they could kind of listen in, right? In a way, it's okay if they listen to both of them, because then they're kind of getting like a double take or a double dip on like what your teaching point is. And then that way you can kind of switch back and forth, and it doesn't just have to be one-on-one.
Got it. Would you, if you did that, would you, you know, like, because usually when kids are reading in a small group, I try to stagger them so they're not reading at the exact same time. So would you recommend they're reading at the same time so they're listening to each other, or that they're still staggered like a normal started reading?
I think it just depends on, like, if they are reading the same book, right, then you might say like, okay, you can start yours, and then I'm gonna like talk with this student, and then they'll be staggered naturally. But if they have like 2 different books, then you won't have to worry about it. And Rahima, we had a question just about, and I know this might be in that virtual meetings guide, but with like our youngest students, what's the protocol in terms of like, what if there isn't an adult to like sit there with them? Is that something that's like officially required? Like, I feel like we've gone back and forth about all this.
It's not officially required. So they don't have to have an adult. I mean, it obviously would be helpful just to get them started, but they don't have to have anybody sitting with them. So if they can log themselves on, it's okay for you to meet with them face-to-face, one-to-one.
Okay, great.
Nikki, is there anything that you want to share out from the chat?
Yes. I also want to share out, because I was hopping around to different breakout groups. That feature works, so yay. And so one of them was, one of the things that came up was office hours, and if, like, you know, because everyone's at different places, and how students are coming on, how many and at what time, and how that might turn into a conference, or using that as an opportunity to give feedback to students. So that was one that came up. Another question that came up that's also connected to the chat, like what to do about students being on the phone and conferring. And so there was a shout out to one of our colleagues who's like already jumped in and is checking in with students and their reading life via phone, and just trying to navigate some of those challenges. So if there's thoughts about that, we can share that. And then I also wanted to highlight another idea was around like assigning different books at students' levels about the same topic to read beforehand, and having them share out, but being in like almost like a strategy group. It's like they're not all at the same, reading the same books at the same reading levels. So that was another idea.
Thank you. And is there anyone who has done a phone conference that can just share a little bit about how that went or what they tried? So I will say that with phone conferences, yes, it's trickier because you don't know what's right in front of them. It's harder to see. You're not controlling as much. So if they have, FaceTime, that's a one way of kind of doing the phone conference. They can like show me the page of the book you're on or show me what you're working on. You can have them use the phone for that. For those other students who don't, you're just talking to them on the phone, you just might be having conversations about books. Like, tell me what you're reading, like what's been happening in the stories, just getting them excited to talk about books. As you ask them some comprehension questions, you'll get a sense of where they're at. If you can't assign books to them because they don't have access to digital, just have conversations. Or it might be a time for you to be like, oh, I'm going to read a part of a story to you, and then we're going to talk about this, right? So we don't have as much control. I mean, a lot of our kids have access to technology, but we know a lot also don't. So just thinking about ways of just meeting them so that you're still connecting with them. They still know you're there. They still know that reading and writing and math and all that stuff is important. But it's okay if we can't control that. We just can't, right? So just having that conversation is going to be the important part. Okay, I'm going to quickly share my screen again. Hopefully it's quick. And we're going to just wrap up. I wanted to show you, so on the slideshow, I showed these first two, let me close this. I showed these first two videos, but if you want to look, there's a first grade nonfiction, and then there's a third grade nonfiction video that you could also look at. Again, it's just teachers just trying it out, right? And we're not looking at it as a critique of like, oh, they should have done this. It's like, wow, what can I try? What can I bring out so that I'm doing this? Because it's tricky, right? And it's not super simple. So tips and considerations, right? So think about your students' needs. Like, will they need to bring their own book? Like if they're on the phone or you've been working with them on their own book, or will you need to bring a book for them? Ways to communicate to students and families about conferences. So you know that you have a conference scheduled with the student at 3 o'clock, text or call them at 2:30 or 2 o'clock. Hey, I can't wait for this conference. So it's on their radar. And then initial conferences are a chance to connect with students. You do not need to go straight into content. I know I already mentioned that, but I just think that's really, really important because we, don't know what the kids are going through and what's going on. So just like listen and just like be there for them, right? I think that's really, really important. Just something to leave you with. This like really resonated with me, has been resonating with me about staying positive, but it doesn't mean you have to be happy all the time. It means that even on hard days, you know that there are better ones coming. So I've been like holding on to that because I'm not happy all the time and this is tricky and it's hard. So hopefully that is helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, you can unmute yourself and ask. You can also email us. And then I just wanted to point out the ELA planning portal. If you click on it and you go to it, Nikki and Katie did this amazing job where they put that ELA distance learning planning portal at the top. So there's access to the distance, not just the units that we created during the regular school year. So it's the Google Classroom codes, there is the links to the units and then the guidance documents. And as we get different resources, we'll be adding them on. Okay. So any questions, Nikki, that are coming up in the chat?
No questions coming up. Just lots of appreciation. You did it. You rocked the party.
All right. And if you have a question, you want to unmute yourself, feel free. If not, you can leave. But reach out to us for whatever you need. Hi, Gina.
Hi.
How are you?
I was just typing a message. Thank you.
No problem.
This was perfect. Right up my alley.
Good.
Yeah. My trickiest situation is I have access to the LLI books online and also RAS. I'm still practicing learning how to share my screen.
Mm-hmm. Well, me too.
Yeah, I know. So, but I am meeting with my first student tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Sincere.
Oh, sincere. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. We've been using, for first and second grade, most of their assignments are downloaded to Seesaw.
Mhm.
So I've been going on to the library part of Seesaw and finding some really good pre-made phonics lessons, things that we've either covered or for review or in addition to that, and sight word activities
Great.
where they can actually read lists of sight words.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah, so it's working so far, but we just got to get more kids online.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so anyway, now I know, I forgot I can come for you for help.
Yes, you can.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
Your
So-
favorite. Hi, Latrice.
Hi, Patrice.
You did great, Rahima.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like sweating bullets. Like I'm like drenched. I'm seriously drenched.
Where's the baby?
Travis, I don't think I could handle that distraction. Maybe next time she'll co-facilitate with me. Maybe.
Yeah. It was good to see you, though.
Yeah, same.
I signed up. I think there's another one, a K2. There's a few reading.
Word
Yeah,
study.
Word study. You guys doing those too?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, we're not facilitating, but we'll be on.
Yeah.
Katie, who's also amazing, will be facilitating.
Okay. Good. Well, thank you
Yay.
guys. Good to
Thank
see you. Like,
Bye.
you're still alive.
Yeah. We
And
all are.
healthy.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I was grumpy last night. I was like, why can't this government do more to solve our problem?
I know. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's anyway. All right, good to see you.
Good to see you. Bye.
Bye-bye.